Tanya pasalnya ni, domestic violence. Where can you get help for domestic violence? Ni kadang-kadang wife ni, dia fikir dia boleh ubah suami dia and all that. Padahal she's suffering and she don't know where to get help. Where can she go?
Okay. So I think what you're asking for is the recourse for a domestic abuse victim lah. Not always women can women also.
Tapi jarang ada
Ada. First of all, for domestic violence, if a victim is experiencing it, you may want to make a police report first lah. That is always the first thing, because even if you proceed to make any applications in court, one of the most important documents you need to show would be your medical report as well as your police report as well. That would be one of the things you need to show lah in making the application. Who can apply for to be the applicant in such a situation? It's the victim, and it has to be against a family member. The Women's Charter, there's a list of who would be considered a family member. It includes ex-spouses, by the way. Tapi if let's say the person who is abusing you is a boyfriend, then that you cannot get a personal protection order, okay, because it's not under family, it's not considered family violence.
But then
But it's not to say no recourse. You can still make a police report, but it's not like make this application for a personal protection order, a PPO. Okay, so a personal protection order is basically, as the name suggests, is an order by the court which restrains that aggressor from continuing any violence. So if he breaches it, he can go to jail. It will be a criminal offence. So there are actually a few types of orders. So for example, I'm a domestic abuse victim. Okay, so I go to court, I make the application, or I engage a lawyer to do it for me, whichever the case, I'm seeking this order, right? But sometimes by the time the PPO hearing, the trial comes along, it'll be months down the road, right? So there's always that fear that in the interim, the violence will escalate lah, especially the aggressor will be like, you dare make this kind of, right? So that's why the law also has in place, another type of order you can seek, which is called an expedited order. So you can file for both together. An expedited order means that the court will actually, it's like a temporary PPO. It's like a stopgap first. So I give first. Okay, so if by the time of the PPO trial, I think there's no case and I dismiss the PPO, then the expedited order will lapse. But at least this is a measure that helps to, it's like a temporary order in place. Of course, the court will give the expedited order based on a preliminary assessment as to whether or not there's danger lah, there's imminent danger to the so-called victim lah. It won't be a full-blown trial at that point because it takes a while before, there are affidavits. Affidavits means like witness statements to be filed and all. It takes time. But those are not the only two orders. There can be also other orders. Some abuse victims, they feel like, well, personal protection order, I'm not so sure whether or not it's enough. So they may ask even for something called a domestic exclusion order. Domestic exclusion order means there's a specified designated area that the aggressor is not allowed to enter without the consent of the victim. So for example, let's say the victim applies and obtains a domestic exclusion order. The aggressor cannot enter a specific room. So that is her safe haven within the same house, for example. So he's excluded from entering that room without her permission. So if let's say the husband, he becomes very violent all over again after the whole trial finish, and he will be liable, and she can call the police on him, saying that there's a DEO, a domestic exclusion order, restraining him from even entering this room without my consent, but he continues to enter. Some people ask for domestic exclusion order for the whole house itself. If it's ex-spouse, of course the court will look at it. And what I see is that it's not always the case where those who apply for a PPO are actually victims of domestic violence. What do I mean by that? Sometimes I see is that they have misunderstandings. They are undergoing divorce. Parties are undergoing divorce, so they misuse it as they try to take out this application to kind of get some sort of leverage over the spouse, right? Especially if it involves children. Like start making allegation, you hit our child, you do this, you do that. You can take out PPOs not just on behalf of yourself, but on behalf of your own children. You can do that. So sometimes they use it as I would say a tactical.
But you have to have proof also.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course. So doesn't mean you take out the application means you will succeed lah. At the end of the day, the court will see and analyze and see whether or not it's necessary to have this PPO. Let's say a husband slaps the wife one time. If the wife is not able to show that this is something that's going to recur, okay, maybe ex-husband they stopped living together and he's migrated overseas and lived overseas for like 10 years or 5 years. The court will look not just at the past instances of family violence or whether it will recur, but the element of necessity as well. Is it necessary? Yeah.
But how do they get help? Can they just go to any lawyer or online?
You mean to make the application? So there's this portal online. It's called iFEMS. Small I, FAMS, like FEMS, family. They can make the application online lah. Or if they feel like they may not know how to fill up the relevant paperwork or the forms and the documents, then they can engage a lawyer.
When they do online, is it free or there is a small fee involved?
Generally, whenever you file something on iFEMS, there will be a small fee at some point lah.
Senang ke nak dapat lawyer? Macam mana nak cari lawyer
Our firm does practice family law, Sharia law. Most family lawyers will be able to do this for you.
Yeah.